I paid for a lot of research and a lot of development of a lot of tanks. Like I said, I had basically had mad scientists, you might say. They had, I had the best of the best engineers, and they dreamt up all kinds of different tanks. And certain tanks I would not necessarily put into production, or at least I would not put them into production as some of the things I had tested. Like for instance, the flame tanks and some of the other things. Like although I did research it and I did actually have some flame tanks built, I only had four of them built, and I didn't put them in production. And South Africans actually, probably the blacks actually converted the tanks. I believe it was the South Africans converted the tanks into flame tanks, basically. They bought my tanks and then they basically built their own flamethrower modifications. Like if you're not going to use it, we're going to use it. And they basically built a rig. They got the plans for my flame tanks, and then they built their own because I would not produce. I considered burning someone to be unlawful and not exactly the kind of thing that I would do. Like I said, there are certain things that I would not do, and I would not sell it in that way. If they chose, I would research. I researched it, yes, and I paid for the research. But at that point in time, I would not sell the tanks with that modification. If they wanted to do something horrible and cruel, then they would be building the parts on their own. And somebody made a fair amount of money or whatever converting over tanks. But basically, they set up a shop and built the parts themselves because that's why they say they were converted over eventually. They were buying my tanks and then refurbishing them. Um, those tanks were outdated and too heavy and too fuel sucking, basically, for me. So I would change and update and was building better tanks by then. Because if you can't get a tank there, then there's no point in having a tank. It doesn't do any good if it can't actually get to where the fight is. So basically, at a certain point, although I did research a lot of things, so the South Africans actually converted the tanks over for their own use or whatever. Anyway, like I say, certain things I considered beneath or basically not the kinds of things that I was going to be associated with. Like I said, everything I built, everything I did, I looked at how it would make me look, how I looked being the seller and inventor and producer of that exact item. So I would not produce things that were of such a caliber that it made me look bad. Because I was Lucifer. I was the one, the savior, the one that offered assistance, the one that rode into the rescue. I would not be known for how many victims I flamed, or how people were burned alive with my tanks and flamethrowers. That would not be my legacy onto this world. Anyway, so that's why they say they were converted over, because I was like, I will not sell that. I will not produce it. I won't even produce a flamethrower for it. You want to put a flamethrower on there? You do it yourself. I was like that, because like you're gonna and when I found out that what they were doing, I was like, if you even burn one person and I find out about it, I will go in there myself and destroy every single one of those tanks. That's what I said. And I found out that they had burned over 3,000 people. And you know what I did? We went in there and we destroyed I was like, I want every single one of those tanks destroyed. Anyway, so they destroyed every single one of those tanks. Hunted them down until there was not one left. Anyway, and I paid quite a bit for that. Like I said, I warned them. I said, you burn people with those flame tanks, and I will hunt you down. And they did. And so they went against the manufacturer, the producer of the world's best and most deadliest weapons. So I hunted them down. And I felt good when every single last one of their tanks was destroyed. And yes, they knew. We sent them a message saying, you better leave those tanks because in the morning those tanks will not be there. Anyway, they burned like 15,000 people or something with those fucking flame tanks. Anyway, so I paid like $1,000 and every single one of them, until there was not one left. I said, don't do it again. Anyway, I was pissed. How dare they? What? Shooting them in the head isn't good enough? You have to make them slowly burn to death? Like I say, certain actions that I found undesirable. I was a person, and the human race was, those were my tanks, these are my people on this planet. Anyway. I was very rich. I was the producer of the best tanks, so. And when they said we're gonna, they were like, well, we're gonna use it, we're gonna do it. Anyway, and I warned them. I said, if you burn any people with those flame tanks, I will know and I will find out. Anyway, they did. They killed 4,000 or 15,000 people with them. So I hit them with everything I had. I sent tanks, I sent aircraft, I sent men to destroy every single last one of those flame tanks. And if they ever put another manufactured flame tank ever again and burn people with it, I would expect my men to do the same and destroy them again. No one likes to be burned, and it's not a pleasant way to die. Anyway, I had more money back then. I guess I'm an interesting kind of person, anyway, but that's what happened, basically. So, rebuilt or not, and that's why those tanks can't really be found, because we destroyed every last one of them. They're like, I forget how many there were. They're like 3,000 or 1,200 or something tanks, and so my men hunted every single last one, and the crews knew. They found them empty, I believe. They knew. Anyway, it's like hunting for weapons of mass destruction. How would you like to get burned with a flamethrower? You wouldn't. Like, have you ever seen a person burn to death? I haven't, but I can imagine what it must feel like and what it must be like. Like I said, one person we found, we have video of him lighting people on fire. I think I put $1,000 or $10,000 reward for his head. Anyway. Like, if he's still alive, if he's still breathing, I want his head. Anyway, I would not accept that kind of behavior anywhere on my planet. Not anywhere. There are certain things where it's like, how dare you call yourself human? How dare you be breathing the same air I'm breathing? Anyway. So, what can I say? I'm that kind of a person, I'm just, you might call me psychotic. I'm very compassionate and very loving and very caring, and I was a very rich and powerful person. So, anyway, and no one likes, I can only imagine what it must be like. There were children. They have film of children burning. Like, I've seen it myself. Women running, and little children, not much taller than 3 foot tall, burning as they ran. And then, like, you see that film, you go, like I say, anger rising up inside me. And just like this scream that just yelled, how dare they? How dare they use my tanks? How dare they use my technology? How dare they use my money? How dare they be on my planet and call themselves human? So, for those who had fallen because I was that rich and that powerful, I ordered them found and killed. They stopped recording such horrible things. Anyway. And if that meant I lost all my money and was taken down, then fine. I know, I get kind of compassionate about it, but I mean, I felt the same way when I was only 9 years old. I would